Thanks for joining me for the Pray for Micah podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review, and check out my YouTube channel and follow me on social media. Pray for Micah Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And now, on with the show.
Welcome to the Pray for Micah podcast. And now your host, Micah Chrisman.
Hello, welcome to the Pray for Micah podcast, where we explore art, activism, spirituality, and our cosmic significance / insignificance. Today, we're going to start off with a Pray for Micah story before we introduce our guest, because I have a pretty funny, embarrassing story that happened to me, and I just wanted to make sure all of you embarrassing story hungry people get a chance to laugh at my expense.
Of course.
Oh yeah, time for a Pray for Micah story. So, for Christmas, I decided to purchase a backpack carrier for my cat. Cat backpack carrier.
Okay.
And that's just like a way to like basically take my dog on a walk and simultaneously have my cat Pumbaa in a backpack. And he's got like little windows that he can like peek out of. And so I'm picturing like we're going to go on this like family, like Instagram worthy, like walk where we're all like chilling and hanging out. And I go ahead and get him in the backpack and I walk around my house for a few minutes with him in it. And I'm like, okay. No squirming, no meowing, no cursing at me. Like, we're going to try this. Let's go to the park. So I go to the park with my dog, Rayla, and my cat, Pumbaa. And we start walking on the trail. And 5 minutes in, my cat starts going, meow, meow. And I was just like, well, he just probably needs to get used to the bouncing parts. And so I was just like determined, like, oh, let's just keep going. And I want to get my walk in, you know? And 15 minutes later, I realize everything is fucking falling apart. And my cat is now, meow, and he's like clawing and kicking around in my backpack. And I was like, okay, all right, this is a bad choice. I should go ahead and turn around and head back. But now I'm 15 minutes further down the trail. So now altogether it's going to be a 30-minute round trip to get back. Next thing I know, I start smelling shit and piss.
No.
And my cat is having a like major meltdown on this hiking trail. And I'm walking past these people on the trail. And they're just like seeing the spectacle of me walking my dog. And the backpack on my back is just like shaking and like moving, and they're probably just like, what is that smell? Who's this guy walking by? Oh, it was terrible. I had to like get him home and immediately get him into a bath and started giving him a shower. So everybody, that was my story. Be praying for me, you know.
You're Instagram worthy.
My Instagram worthy
moment.
animal backpack experience. Just know that for all the thousands of takes you see those Instagram couples with their pets on trails, you didn't see the shitstorm that those animals caused on the side quests and behind
that was
the
the
scenes.
beginning of the story.
Right. Yeah, that was the beginning of the story. It was not the end result, for sure. So be praying for Pumbaa. He was pretty traumatized afterwards. I gave him a bath, and you know, after a while, he was mad at me, but then he kind of hopped up my lap and was like trying to get warm because now he's cold from being wet. And I was like, we made up, you know. It's like, sorry, buddy, I won't make you go on a hike anymore. So, yes, that's the story of the week. I'm sticking by it. Everybody, if you want to, hit me up, prayformicahpod@gmail.com. I want to start a new thing where we're going to maybe do a segment called Prayers for the People. And so if you have a funny, embarrassing story similar to that experience, it doesn't have to be that long-winded, but you could share something with me. Send me an email, and it can either have your name or be anonymous. But I think it'd be funny. People start submitting their prayers to the show. Well, let's give to introducing our guests for the evening. We have Diosselyn Tot in the house.
Hey.
And she was born in Guatemala and has made Kansas City, Kansas her home ever since. Her community organization roots can be traced back to her time at community housing of Wyandotte County. She was one of the founders of the Art Squad. And the Art Squad taught art classes on the street corners and also painted murals in alleyways and cleaned debris to make them safe for kids. They have painted over 50 murals in alleyways to abate gang graffiti of the urban core of Kansas City, Kansas. Her community engagement work has also included greening and entrepreneurial initiatives. And there's so much I could say about this woman. She's such an incredible person. I got to know her through our project of DocuCourse,
Yes.
Art and Advocacy. Go check it out, docucourse.org. And you can watch her, like literally a documentary about her life. And maybe not her whole life story. I mean, it's only 45 minutes. But she gives also community strategies and like just trainings of how to replicate and do something similar in your own neighborhood. So we got an artist in the house. Diosselyn,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and all the conversations that we're going to have.
So Diosselyn, since we kind of released your documentary and, I'd like folks to go and actually watch it to hear some of your life story and kind of experience your journey more in that kind of visual film format. But for folks who haven't seen it, I didn't know if you could give us the high elevated overview of your journey coming from Guatemala as a kid to now being an artist here in the KCK area.
Yes. Okay, so I will try to keep it short. You're probably going to have to edit this.
Nope. We're just going to go for the whole hero's journey version of it,
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'll try to keep it not long-winded, but who knows? Can't promise. So, all right. So my story pretty much started in Guatemala. I was born in Guatemala, Mazatenango to be specific.
Yeah.
It has a longer name, Mazatenango Suchitepeques.
Oh, really?
But when I
Give
say
us
that,
the full name.
When I say that, everybody keeps me these eyes. There's like, what did you just say? So Guatemala for short. I was born there, and my parents brought me here when I was 6 years old. So around 6 years old, honestly, I really didn't understand what was happening besides I'm going to somewhere different. And different really didn't register to me until later on in my years. My first memory in the U.S. was snow. I've never seen snow.
Really?
Yeah. Guatemala is known as the eternal spring, so it's always raining. So snow was something big. But after 2 days, me and my sister were done with it. We were just like, okay, we're good.
It's about how
it's
it is.
fun. It's cold. Our fingers are freezing. What is this? Went into, back into our home. And that's where my story kind of started. It was a big shift. I used to go to a private school in Guatemala. I had, my dog had a house in our house type thing. We were really fortunate when we were in Guate. I really didn't understand why we were so fortunate. I understand it now, what my dad was doing, sending back money, dollars, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously could live a better life. And that's what my parents did. But my mom really wanted us to get back there, back with them, with my dad and my mom. Because they were gone for maybe, honestly, I can't remember, 1 or 2 years. So I lived with my oldest sister in my young years. But when my mom decided to bring us over, she got our passports. She got everything done. Again, I just knew I was going to come home to dad and mom. And I was super excited about that. Ended up leaving. Everybody was good at the airport. And I was the one who started crying for a candy. For a candy, y'all. That's what I did.
How old were you? You said you were
6.
Okay.
I was 6. So I just started crying and throwing a tantrum for a candy. And that's what spearheaded all of the crying for my family. So
sometimes you just need someone to open up the waterworks, right?
Yeah.
Just get
for a candy.
get the flow going. And then it's like, we're all leaving our home. This is so heavy.
So that's what I remember. Then ended up coming to Texas, which was my first time encountering police and kind of getting that sense of what was truly going to happen throughout my life. And then yeah, years passed, got here, saw my dad, saw the snow, was very happy. Then things kind of shifted, right? I started understanding that this was my new home. Then I had to learn a new language. It took forever to find an elementary school because I kept looking for people that spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
And eventually I went to a school that a girl named Fabi, I still remember her. She's the sweetest pie and lives in Wyandotte still. And she was the one who said hi to me, kind of got my hand, and that's how I started. Just went to school. Then afterwards, around 12 years of age, because it was pretty standard from there, I started working on community engagement, and I started learning my status, my legal status per se. I wasn't quite sure what it truly meant. I just knew I was different. So from there, it was I don't even know how to explain it, to be honest with you, Micah. It was a kind of on and off type thing. Like, there were certain things that happened that I would be like, oh, why are they happening that way? Or why do we have to do it that way? Mm-hmm. I learned how to drive at the age of 12, 13, just in case of emergencies, right? They were teaching my sister, so they decided to teach me just in case I needed to act on what moment. Again, in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm getting taught how to drive. I'm cool. I'm so young.
As a kid would, yeah. Right. You're just like.
Yeah, for me, it was all fun and games until I finally understood, like, oh, this is for emergencies. This is what happens if I need to act for XYZ. So things like that kind of started showing up. My sister, my middle sister, during my teenage years, after 12 years old, she came out. And then that created a whole different shift in my family as well. So I'm a pastor's daughter.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Welcome to the world of Trump. No,
welcome to the club.
Welcome to the PK club.
Oh, man. And it was good. And it was, it had its good and it's had its bad. Because we obviously are put into a standard that we have to elevate ourselves at a young age and make sure that that's how people are seeing us, because that's what they expect. So things like that kind of started coming up in my family. What did it mean to have my sister come out? What did it mean for my dad's position? What did it mean for us as a whole, for our culture? Because, again, Hispanics are kind of conservative.
Yeah.
We're very religious. We stick to our guns. Very family branch, nuclear family vibes, all these things. So all of that was challenged when I was a teenage girl. And honestly, the biggest thing that I can remember is just understanding that I love my sister no matter what. And that's what kind of got me through all of the confusion, because it was very confusing, very confusing. My sister ended up leaving, and I got more involved in community engagement to, try to keep my mind busy. I was a really good student, really great in my academics, very bad behavior. So
I remember you saying the middle school was like your problem child years.
Oh, man, those were the fun years.
Once you teach her how to drive, man, all of a sudden she's got an attitude. She's got an attitude, as you hear.
If y'all remember me in middle school, I am so sorry, y'all. But
pray
we've
for
grown.
Those people. Pray for those.
Pray for Lynn. No, but that's what was going on. Again, I can talk about it now because I understood what happened. But during those years, I had no clue. I was just kind of going with the flow, feeling how I was feeling, saying what I was saying without really understanding what I was going through. So teenage years were a little tough. And that's when my immigration pathway started. So it all ties together, right? My sister came out, all of these things happened, things started shifting. And unfortunately, a couple years after, a crime was committed to my family, and that's how we started a pathway to citizenship. So there's a thing called U visas. You may not hear often about them, because when somebody has a U visa, it's because something traumatic happened to them. Really? You're not talking about a simple, like...
This isn't DACA recipient stuff. It's totally different.
Totally different pathway.
Yeah.
The U visa, something really, again, traumatic has to happen. Something heavy where you're helping cops or police officers, etc., find out who the person was that committed the crime. So it has a huge thing to connecting on making sure that there's good citizens out here. So because of that, we found a pathway to citizenship, which I call our blessing in disguise. because it was really hard to understand. And those were the years that truly had me everywhere and everything at the same time.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
All at once, man. All at once. I would not wish it on anybody, but it really was what shaped me. I started harboring myself in certain projects. I started trying to figure out why my behavior was as such. Try to understand what was happening with my family. There was all these components. And, you know, the citizenship pathway, there was a lot of courts. There was a lot of retelling the story, resharing what had happened, understanding what were the consequences, what were the pathways, the processes, etc. All of these things. And just seeing the ripple effects that was having in my family. That was hard. But that was just the beginning, to be honest with you. It was what kind of started the shifts in all my life and started putting me in the right places with the right people, I want to say. Because I had really great mentors, really great individuals in the community that really protected me and lifted me up during those years. Because when things were happening and I was trying to understand that, eventually I got to my senior year, right? College, supposed to be happy, all these applications. I had done all this volunteer work, resources, anything that you can think of about bilingualism, I probably did. I interpreted XYZ things. And I was doing research and I was doing all these different things, right? But what happened then is that I had a full ride scholarship, and that full ride scholarship was from one day to another taken away from me. And it wasn't only taken away from me.
Really?
It was like 300 plus students in one room when we got told that if you weren't a citizen and you were in this program for years, it didn't matter. It counted if you were a citizen or not, and if you weren't a citizen, you weren't going to get this full ride scholarship.
So they just pulled the rug right out from underneath all of you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
they waited till they had 300 people in one room, and they're like, okay, now.
This is where we're going. And honestly, it was my first experience of lack of education, of not understanding the immigration systems, because I don't think it was done with malintent. I think it was just that lack of exposure, of understanding what it truly was. Which I'll come back to this because it was later on the years that I found something out that was pretty cool, but at the same time I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So again, because they pulled the rug out of us, it was, you know, we went from a class of 300 to like 150 in the second. We were all trying to figure out what did that mean to us. I saw my friends devastated, crying. I was devastated, crying, trying to figure out like, what am I doing? Why should I try at school? It was my senior year, August, October, you know, I'm supposed to be having all these thrills, and it was not it. What my senior year turned out to be was getting lawyers, getting people to understand what my status was, being on the phone for long times, and
yeah, bureaucracy and paperwork, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was just reliving everything that I didn't realize that I was going to have to relive. I think for a second in my head as a teenager, I thought, okay, this is done. And it was not. But again, another blessing in disguise, because that's what really rerouted my whole career afterwards. After I was able to retain my scholarship, after I was able to get universities and schools to see my applications for college and truly see the work that I was bringing in, it all started getting easier, or I knew how to navigate it, but I wanted to become a doctor, and that just kind of completely fell out. I'm like, no, being a doctor means I'm at the very end when people already are sick or when they're out of resources, etc. Right? And I've done a lot of triage. I've done a lot of medical interpreting. So I didn't want to do that. And because I understood the resources, because I understood the pathways by the age of 20 pretty much, I decided to reroute my whole career. And hence it comes everything that I had done with my community building and engagement, all the projects that did artwork and revitalization and entrepreneurship, all of it came handy because it made sense at that moment. I just needed to find a title for it. Once I found the career for it, I just kind of went in depth, learned more about advocacy, got stronger, rerouted all my skills and all my experiences, and started using the advocacy portion to everything that I had been taught. It started with creativity, ended up with advocacy, and then it was just a mix of everything.
Wow.
And that is what ignited everything else that you guys are going to hear and see in the DocuCourse. When it talks about my story, it talks about the hurdles, but it also talks about all the great experiences and the people that were there, everything that I used for my citizenship process, because everybody that saw me do the work were references.
Mm-hmm.
There were letters of recommendation of stating, yes, she is a good citizen. She has done this. She has done that. All of it came very much in handy. So I already had known multiple people by the age of 21. And again, it was just kind of like the perfect fit, right? Of just being like, this is where I'm supposed to be at. I know this, and just started doing what I knew, and it just naturally came. So,
because you were 13 years old, right, when you started?
12, 13, yeah.
12, 13, kind of, I forget his name. It was
Steve Curtis.
Steve.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was trying to remember. I was like, it's not Nils. That came later with the UMKC kind of partnering with you all, but
it's KU.
KU. See,
Yeah.
don't listen to me.
Don't get mad if you say UMKC.
I only work at this job. I'm only the communications marketing person
only.
for this. Yeah, Don't listen to me. I've had apparently too many whiskey sours. So KU. But you all basically revitalized Urban Station. And you want to share a little bit about what that looked like?
Yeah.
Because were you 13 at that time when you?
No.
Was that a little later?
That's later. So from age 13 to 24, I worked in community building and engagement, and I did over 8 projects, revitalizing pocket parks, which were vacant lots turned into small parks. Revitalized the whole park. Did a ceramic studio. We did a coffee shop. We did art classes. We did gardens. We did murals. We did lights. We did all these different things. So that was all from age 12 to 24, which I talk about my mobilizing skills. That was my foundation for mobilizing. I knew how to talk to people. I knew how to do resources. What I added on after I graduated at the age of 24 from KU, debt free, I may add, because I got my scholarship back. I fought it back, y'all.
Yeah, you got it.
I got it back, and I got everything paid for.
Heck yeah.
Yes, which, was a big accomplishment. But at the age of 24, that's when I went into my first advocacy project at El Centro, and I started immigration and voter engagement projects. Kind of developed a department, sustained some of the programs that were already there. And from there, because I was leaving community building and engagement and going more into the immigration portion, there was still a part of me that wanted to do that. Arts, creative, revitalization, community building projects. So I decided to start Urban Works with my business partner and longtime friend and mentor, Steve Curtis. With him, we came up with the idea of Urban Works to continue the projects that we already had done. We also thought about adding a portion of training others to do what we had done, like the love, the passion, the tips, the models, all of these different things. Who were going to be the next art squad? Who was going to be the next generation that was going to take the baton from me? That was my next level of exposure, right? I'd been the one that had been helped graciously and amazingly, and it was time for me to figure out how I was going to help. So we decided with Urban Works, we decided that we couldn't just turn around and not see what we already saw.
Yeah.
And that's when we created the projects. The first thing was finding a home, and the home was Urban Station. It was another vacant spot in the community, over a decade vacant. And we decided to come in. It took us a couple months to convince the owners to know that we were going to be working with community and not revitalize it into an XYZ building of XYZ company and organization and renting space. They didn't want that. They wanted it to be very much local as much as possible. So it did take us a couple months. We actually cleaned the station before we were able to own the station. Again, another showcase. And from there, we started working on it. All of the volunteer groups that we had worked with, all of the partners, all of the project teams that we had experienced and been exposed to for the past, decade.
Yeah, right.
They all came and showed up and helped us get it done. So the station has a lot of hands that can truly say that they brought all of that together. It was not only us. But it was great to see everybody kind of show up.
What a beautiful experience to like have that kind of culminate to that moment. I would imagine like, I wish I could go back in time because I didn't know about any of this in existence. Didn't know you existed until we did this project together. But if I could go to like that moment where you guys open those doors and like the youth probably like, oh, we have a space now where we can like mix our paints and get stuff ready for the murals and like, I'm sure I just picture you guys like at the very beginning, just like carrying paint cans in the alleyways and like putting tarps and like hauling stuff going on. And then you're like, oh, great. We can have a place that stores all of our supplies. And, and there's so much cool features to it. Cause like, yeah, it just, if you go check out the documentary, you can see all the, like Nils talks about how they kind of incorporated repurposed wood and how there's just this aesthetic, like a rust, you know, like they
rustic look to it.
Yeah,
yes.
they kept some of those elements and then, but also modernized it. And so it's an actual art studio, an art like school, essentially.
And it's hands-on experience, especially for the architect students learning how to do all of these things, being in the community. It all has its great touch points from every corner that you see it, to be honest with you. I'm really proud of it. I'm just, when I think about the station and Urban Works, I'm like, yes, it's everything people-based. Everybody continues to show up. We're doing a good thing. You know, they're all happy. I'm not hearing any complaints, so I think we're good.
Do you have, like, I don't know, a story or two you'd like to share about, like, the top favorites of, like, working with youth? I mean, I know there's the crazy story of, like, you guys out there and basically getting the cops called on you because, of course, you know, when teenagers are up to doing things in the streets, they must be up to no good, you know, of course. No. But
oh my God, there's been a couple memorable ones. I think this past year we did internships and I kid around and I say I found my mini me. You met her, Anisha.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, besides like love Anisha, and I do think to an extent that she is definitely a little bit of me when I was young.
Shout out to her.
I
got to work on a mural with her. She's a character. She's a character.
She's dedicated. She is dedicated. But honestly, all of the teens were amazing to work with. But Anisha and Jaquel it just hit somehow a little bit different. They, you know, it kind of, sometimes it clicks, and I think it definitely clicked for them, understanding like they can do all these cool things and they can learn from it, and they're seeing all these different role models that are in their 20s and 30s, and you know, it's just, I think seeing them get close with me and joke around with me, I'm their same height, you know.
It did surprise me when I found out. What are you 30 or 31?
29.
Oh, you're 29. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're not even 30 yet. But
I'm almost there.
I was surprised though. I was just like, you could easily be mistaken to be the same age as
the same age group.
Anisha or Jaquel. Like, you're just one of the homies.
I am, and they treat me like one. And I think that's what I really enjoyed. It just reminded me of all the amazing memories I had when I was growing up, and to just see them kind of get that and be able to turn it out as much as they want to turn it into. It's really cool. That definitely was a great one for me, seeing the younger version of what Steve had to deal with. And then understanding and telling Steve, thank you for being so patient. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sticking with us, because now I know.
That's what happens when you work with like younger people. You just end up like going back to your family or any kind of mentor, and you're just like, thank you. I'm so sorry for what I did to you.
Yes.
I see what the grief these kids are putting me through. That makes me realize immediately how much grief I put my mentors
into
through.
it. Yes, I'm sitting there like, let me go buy you a coffee today. Now I get it. But that was one of the biggest one. I think just seeing them develop their personalities. The other memorable one has been Ashley, and I'm name dropping here, so I hope they don't get mad.
Hey,
they're gonna be like, "Why are you
there's
talking
no
about us?"
last names, you know. I guess you know.
So
if we throw out their address, they might get mad, you know.
They might. Ashley, I think it's just the people that I see and the changes that I see in people that really thrill me through the station. Ashley, when she came in, she would not say even hello to me, and it wasn't that she was being rude. She was just this shy. She she got there, she did what she had to do, and that was that, and she was ready to go, right? And this last year, it was like a whole different Ashley. Like, she was talking, she was leading her own thing. She knew everything I would be saying pretty much. Like, I know sometimes I make no sense. And she was like, yeah, you need this. Okay, I got you. Or sometimes she would even say it before I even said it. And I'm like, man, you guys are great. But again, I think just seeing her switch her personality and just seeing how much open she is. And man, this girl goes to Puerto Rico. She's going to all these different cities. And it's just amazing to see how much they open up. And it's just so easy afterwards for them to be like, oh, I can do this. Well, I saw Lynn do it. I saw Dio do it. So she can talk like this. I can talk like this. I'm like, okay. I hope that that's a great sign for all of them.
Well, and I would think that by providing a space where they can express themselves through their creativity and then realize like, oh, this is something like I'm watching, you're modeling it for them, right? You're like, hey, this is how you can like organize our community to like do something fun, but also it beautifies our space. And now next time you're all walking to school, you get to see the piece you helped collaborate and work on. And yeah, that's.
And all these things, like I had them do paper mache monkeys. They did not forget that.
What was this?
Paper mache monkeys. I had this idea.
Oh, paper mache monkeys.
Well, I didn't have it. Steve had it. So me and Steve are dreamers. I will never disclaim that. Actually, that would be my fair warning to everybody. We are dreamers before we are people that see realism and the actual factors. But we see them eventually. But we are dreamers. And Steve one day came in and he was like, oh, man, I saw this paper mache monkey. I think it would be really cool if we do it. And he just started talking about that. And then I'm like, what about if we have several paper mache monkeys? I'll learn how to make them. So I honestly went to my cousin. He works in construction. Asked him for some, thing that I can maneuver and twist and turn as much as I can. What is that called? It's not yarn. Because it's a little thicker.
Is it knitting or?
No, it's some type of string that's metal made.
That's made. Oh, it's like made of metal.
It's made of metal, yeah, and it has like this green outing to it that makes it soft, so you don't see the inside of it. I don't know. It's this string that's made of metal.
I was like, I'm thinking of chicken wire at this point. That's like
some type of wire.
Growing up on the farm, that's what we used a lot is chicken wire.
I think maybe fancy chicken wire. I don't know.
Fancy chicken wire. It sounds.
It had a protector.
It sounds sexier than chicken wire. Chicken wire just sounds like what? What are you doing to those chickens with it?
Man. So we got this wire for my cousin, and he just gave it to me, and I started playing with the wire, started learning how to make a monkey frame, and then got the paper mache. Technically, we made about 20 monkey paper maches, and we went to a whole street, and we just hung them all around the trees. It was fun. They lasted. The neighbors were taking pictures. They were sending them like, we found a monkey. We took a monkey. And then sometimes they would bring them back to the pocket park right next to the station that we created. So it was a great interactive piece. It's just fun. Things like that, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't
it's almost
think
like a scavenger hunt kind of thing. Like, oh, there's the one I made.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I didn't. So one of the things that I had with the interns is that they could not use brown. I did not want them to have a regular monkey. I told them if we want them to stand out, they have to be different colors. People have to look at it and be like, what the heck were they thinking?
Just like, yeah, don't want to get lost out in the natures,
Yep. Neons, all these different colors. But it was fun. Like I think they had fun doing it, and it's very memorable for all of us.
Oh, that's so great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Urban Station create a space that helps us to like beautify the city, beautify the space. But you're part of Latino Arts Foundation. So like you as an artist, like what because you said you went to school and you were able to kind of like tap into that creativity and express it. And that was already aligned with what you've already been doing in the community. So how did you like find your first like moment of like self-expression and like a piece that you worked on? Was it always advocacy, like justice oriented? Was it like I'm making a piece of art for art's sake and I'm doing it? I don't know if it was a mural or if it's kind of a twist on the question I originally sent you, which was like, who's your inspirational artist who inspired your mural work?
Yeah.
But maybe there's, I don't know, you can, maybe that's in correlation with what art piece maybe you've made. I don't know. I'm just curious, like,
okay. I could have multiple answers for this.
Please. I'd love it.
So, if we're just talking about murals, because I think art in itself has just always been in me. My mom and my dad said that it was just the first thing that I kind of gravitated to. But as far as mural work, I really do have to give props to Steve. Steve was the one who pushed us. He taught us how to do freehand. And when I say freehand, it means like we use measurements. Don't get me wrong. We do use measurements and we get to kind of figure out, we do a lot of blocking. But in essence, we don't use anything to make sure that it's a specific, type of measurement. It's a lot more of like, okay, this looks good. We started off with, doing small scales to then using chalk to do bigger scales on the street. And eventually got into a bigger canvas that was the garages, the fences, and all of these different things. So on that end, I want to say that Steve was the one who really taught us how to be creatively. Not rely on the resources or on the tape measure or on the ruler. It was more of like, okay, let's get what we know needs to go on certain places, and then the rest of it just kind of pull it together. We learned how to work with colors that way as well. He would only get us primary colors. So we learned how to mix. And again, all of these different things were so helpful for me that I'm redoing all of that now for the new programs. But that's where I started my murals. Steve just kind of told us, what would you want to do? What are some things that you're good at that you can share with the community that you're willing to expose out there? And that's when we started the murals. It was the sake of creating artwork in the beginning with the means of beautification. But I think with our mindsets, we're creating art to be able to have fun and eventually connected to the bigger impact that we were making. So when I was in the art squad, Steve led us a lot. But when I was in college, I became the main mobilizer for the group, which meant that I was overseeing the project. So Epic Arts, all of those things kind of came in. And I think that's when I really started figuring out what that voice was for me. It wasn't somebody exposing me and telling me create. It was more of like, okay, so what do you want to say now? You're not just creating.
That's good.
What do you want to say? What do you want to pass on? What do you want to model? And that's, I think in my early 20s is when I started really figuring out, what do I want to say? And I had already been through all those experiences of college and citizenship and immigration statuses. So a lot of it did lean back on getting my voice heard, but then also community issues. So my first advocacy mural per se was about bees, saving the bees and doing it creatively and getting that message out. And from there on, seeing that, it just opened the doors to like, okay, what else do I want to say? What do other people want to say? What do they want to hear? What are they seeing? And just kind of getting that being creative. So I work with 10-year-olds creating their own murals up to 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds. As far as people who have inspired me with murals, once again is Steve, just for the exposure. But I think the second person is JT Daniels. JT Daniels is actually a local artist.
Oh, really?
And he's done a lot of the murals that you see now. He even had an exhibition at the Nelson for the testimonials. Yeah.
Sorry, my pets
Okay.
they're out there wrestling.
So yeah, he had an exhibition for testimonials during Black History Month. I think it was the first exhibition that was made for living Black artists. So it was a big piece. But I actually met him years before he started doing all of this. And he used to come to the coffee shop up on a hill, and he would sit by the window and sketch. And Steve knew him, obviously, and they talked. And eventually we got introduced, and I talked to him one time. And he was amazing. He was also very religious, too. So he talked about religion. He talked about he's Afro-Latino. I believe he's Afro-Latino, or he's African-American and married to a Latina. Don't quote me. One of those two.
Oh, he's listening to the show right now.
Yeah.
Judging
I was
you.
like, don't quote me. I'm sorry, JT.
JT, we're so sorry. We don't want to miss ethnicity to identify you.
But honestly, like, it was just, honestly, it was the first person of color that I saw doing things and just kind of being so approachable and sociable and willing to share. And he was so humble. Like, my biggest takeaway from him was how humble he was. And now to see everything that he's doing, but be able to say, like, oh my God, I met him as a normal human.
Yeah, right.
It's so cool. I still see what he does. I see the characters. I see the development. I see all his murals now in KCK, KCMO, and him going back to our high schools and teaching the students, everything. Like, to an extent, I want to be like, can I volunteer at those high schools that he's volunteering with? Like, I'll be the assistant.
You're like fangirling over here. Yeah. Like, can I just go back to high school and meet JT? And he's like,
I'm a high school student.
You could just come hang out with me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, bet. That means I need to just find a way to you all to work on a mural project together.
Yes.
Because you're basically, I mean, I haven't seen his work, but I've seen yours. And I've worked with you firsthand, and it's like,
I'm sure you've seen it. You just probably don't know it yet.
In the crossroads, or like, do you know kind of what
yeah,
parts of
well,
town?
he has some at the plaza. He has some in KCK down, the KCMO downtown and KCK downtown. The Merc, the one on the side, that's his. There's a couple around, actually, there's a couple in Rosedale, in the intersection of Rosedale, Johnson County, Missouri. Sure. I don't know what it's called, but all that intersection, he has one there. And then honestly, when we were at Gift, they had a couple of his wife works there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
At Gift. Oh, that's cool.
So.
Oh, that comes full circle because, again, if y'all go check out our social media DocuCourse on Instagram, we have a little time lapse of our mural project. I got to participate in mainly just because poor Diosselyn, we forced her to basically make a whole mural art piece
in 4 days.
In like 4 days. Yeah, it was like. What did you say? It was like 400 hours, something crazy. If you added up all the people, and those 4 days or something, it's not maybe not.
It wasn't 400.
Yeah, it's like my math doesn't add up very well, you know.
It was 5 of us, and for 3 days we all worked for 5 hours. So 5 times 5, 35 hours in it just for 2 to 3
like
days.
400 basically.
You know. And then the last day, and then the day of that, I went in at 5 a.m.
You went in at the butt crack of dawn to go finish it, and you did it in time. Everyone can check out the time lapse video. You can see the kind of mural party reveal we had, and
it got done.
It got done.
It got done. It was great too. I got to know a lot more about you.
Yeah.
You guys got to meet me.
Oh yeah. Oh, I learned about your aggressive need for coffee.
Yes.
And I learned, and that's what's funny is like, when you get your pals together and all of a sudden people are hangry and they're this and that, and you're like, we all have some growth and character development through the process. On top of, you did great though. You had a great spirit. You're keeping the kids, high energy.
Yes, and they're amazing.
I just remember there was a funny moment. Again, this feels like another Pray for Micah moment where I'm on top of this ladder at 7 feet up in the air. Me and my 280-pound self. I'm up above. Little short Diosselyn, and she's down at the bottom part of the ladder, and my legs are shaking because I've been standing there. I've been standing there for 45 minutes to an hour with my hands up, and Dale's just like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just my legs are vibrating the ladder, and I'm just "Yeah, I'm fine." I'm just trying to tough it through it, trying to reach the high points, and I'm probably should have got down it earlier and taken a break. You're like, "Are you sure you don't need a break, Micah?" I didn't fall on you though.
You did not. Nobody did.
We can thank God for that. Yeah, in another universe, I fell on top of you and crushed you, and there was no more Diosselyn. There was no more.
Oh, it was fun. It was
Rest
fun.
in peace. Crushed by Micah.
And there she lies.
May she rest in peace.
Instead of being a memorial for promotion, it was going to be a memorial mural.
Hey, if you kept me alive, though, you broke my fall. Thank you, Diosselyn.
Yeah.
In that universe, you kept me alive.
No, but it was fun. We had some good meals that week, you guys. We're not going to lie. We went to go eat almost every other day. Every day, I think we went to go eat.
Yeah. Oh, where was we got the...
Oh, we got the chicken and waffle.
Yes. What's it called? Love is
Love is key.
Love is key. Everybody go check it out.
Pancake mix.
Yeah, pancake mix, chicken waffles, great spot over on Troost. Yeah, it was such a good time. And again, to just experience like what your process. I was like, wow, we did this whole like 5 days of shooting a documentary about your life where you're sharing stories about how that kind of looks, but then like forcing you to do it in 4 days and gift. I was like, oh, I get to experience it with you. It's like, well, I never thought this would be my job part. I'm like here to shoot video and record it. And then like, oh, looks like I'm painting now. I'm getting So I love that incorporation though, where it's like, I don't know, even going back to your friend JT, your homie. But just think like you were talking about his humility and that same kind of approach where like, you know what you're doing now. You've been doing this a minute. You have these skills and trade to like hand off to these kids, but making it like approachable, not like that humility of giving like an open kind of gateway to like, this is something that you can do and not make it like this, I don't know, like, oh, it's so out of reach kind of feeling. I think so many people feel that way with art. You know what I mean? They're just like, oh, I see this great mural of this person or this sketch of this city, part of the city, and I can't do that, you know? And you've done a great job of just making that a part of like, hey, you can do this in your life too. And yeah, that's just cool. That's really neat.
Thank you. I try to make it fun. And I hope that you guys had fun in it.
Oh, yeah.
I had a lot of fun, even though, there were some stressful moments when I saw that the day was getting close. And I'm like, oh, this is not done.
Oh, yeah.
But
and you were planning for it. You were like, okay, when this is all done, I'm getting my massage.
Oh, my God. And my dog got sick that week. It was a week.
Oh, yeah. How's your pup? Yeah.
It's good. She's alive and kicking. Just cost me a couple $1,000 that week,
Jesus.
But it's okay.
Holy
it's okay.
cow. Just a couple grand. No
Just
big
a couple
deal.
grand,
Just had to like
she's
take
alive.
out a loan. Like
it goes in my credit card. I think we'll be fine. No, she's good. Thankfully she has insurance. My job is amazing. Thank you. But she has insurance, so that helped out a ton. But yeah, if you guys don't know, dogs can get pneumonia. So she got pneumonia and that's what we had to treat her. But overall, honestly, like, it was good. I felt very supported. Like, honestly, it was so funny. I think involving Be Great Together's team, DocuCourse team, and then the teenagers. That was the funnest thing. Having Jaquel and Anisha pick on Abe.
Oh, yeah.
Telling him that he needed to pick up a brush.
Yeah, Abe was really good at like standing there and like, telling us what to do. It's like, oh, get over here, Abe. Get a part of this process.
Yeah. But he did, we all did great. We all had our fun times. We all put our music on. That Bad Bunny never left. We had Bad Bunny fans in there.
Yeah. Juliana's a real Bad Bunny fan. Yeah, that's what I learned from that experience too.
Oh, yeah. And Anisha. Oh, we learned that our friends have charcuterie skills.
Oh, yeah.
We learned a lot of good things that week.
Yeah, it was wow. Yeah, it was a really good week. And thanks to Gift, that's generating income for tomorrow. They're just a friend organization, South KC, and they support Black businesses. So the mural was around Black wealth.
Exactly.
And it was cool because, just seeing the whole process, because I was with you when we were like doing basically a listening kind
session.
of with them and kind of getting keywords and so folks who were kind of part of that group, part of that community, expressing like, hey, here's what, this is what means a lot to us. And you just taking notes, and then you're like, okay, here are some sketches. And so I imagine you probably like JT, do you have a spot where you go to like a coffee shop and you like work on the sketches and like hang out by a window? What's your favorite sketch
I don't.
spot?
I need to though. I need to get out there. Actually, I have spaces at home that I have created for my creative spaces.
Okay.
So I do have a room at home that I have all my artwork, all my, like my home is decorated with my art too. So I just kind of try to create this vibe at my own home that I can definitely work from and just have my inspiration. So yeah, I do everything from home mainly.
Kind of your sacred spaces.
Yep. I put on music, make it a vibe.
You light some candles,
Light some candles, some incense, have that wine bottle right next to me.
Hey, that's
all the creative juices I need.
I love it. Literal creative
Yeah.
juices, got that wine,
Yep.
Praise
And then just listening to people's story. Honestly, sometimes if I need a lot of creativity, I've actually have bought coloring books. So when I cannot think of my own stuff, I just start coloring and, eventually it starts just coming up to like, oh, okay, I can do this. I can do that. But sometimes it takes a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I experienced that too, just with writing. Like I before I even write, sometimes I'll just take 20-30 minutes to read just because the act of reading gets me primed of just seeing words on a page and how they're phrasing or setting a scene, and like, okay, I'm gonna take so I don't know, I always try to like spend time writing. Like I try to pair reading and writing together.
It's just good practices, sometimes you need those words from somebody else or that image from somebody else, artwork, photography, whatever it is.
Right. Just to like start priming the brain to like be in that space. Cause like, even though I work in marketing and public relations every day and I see, I'm doing a lot of visual, creative or written communication stuff. It's like, it's a different expression of creativity versus trying to do narrative storytelling kind of creative stuff.
Exactly. I agree with you. There's different levels of creation, whether it's music, whether it's image, photography, flyers, even flyers take creativity. But no, I'm thinking about it now and I'm just like, I really do surround myself with art when I'm creating art.
Yeah. You're like, get the coloring books out.
Get what I need to get out. The music, a lot of instrumental. Yeah. I don't do lyrics during those moments. I do a lot of instrumental. All
right. Who are some of your like top playlists or artists on those playlists? Like,
honestly, I'm gonna be horrible answering that question. I actually just put Pandora or YouTube and look for instrumental playlists and kind of let them guide the experience.
Like more like classical, like instrumental, or like.
I could do either, but I usually try to go for modern instrumentals. Okay. So things that I can identify, but then just hearing it from a different, tune.
Yeah.
Without the lyrics. It's different. I don't know how to explain it, but it's different.
Totally. No, I do the same thing with my writing. Like, and I'm working on like more of a sci-fi kind of fictional story. And so I have just over the last couple of years been like, I don't know, when I watch a certain show that's kind of got like a more of a sci-fi, I'm like, oh, I really like this soundtrack. And I like start using those songs and I add it. I call it my simulation playlist because my book's about simulation theory. So it's like, all right, I'm going to have some weird kind of robot sound. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's, but I'm in the mode when I'm in that writing mode. If you walk in and hear that playlist, you're like, oh,
that's your vibe.
It sounds weird.
That's your sound.
This is so Micah's losing his mind. Okay, he's in a weird space. Nope, just creative, being writing. I'm curious because you were sharing a little bit about growing up as a pastor's kid. My heart resonates with that.
Oh man.
And I'm just curious with your like community work and your focus on advocacy and justice, and obviously using art as a vehicle to kind of expose these issues or bring to light about what you care about. It can be really exhausting to do all that, and especially if you always feel like maybe an art piece has to like carry a heavy message about whatever police brutality or whatever the thing might be, try to bring awareness to. With all that, and then I'm assuming with being a part of all the foundation's work and all this stuff, everyone pulling at you every direction. Like, what do you use to like anchor yourself? Like, do you have like a spiritual practice or like a form of faith that you use to kind of ground you when you're trying to, I don't know, not lose that creative self in the midst of this chaotic world?
Oh my God.
I don't know. That's like the worst interview question. I just spent like 2 paragraphs.
No,
like
you're okay. You're okay.
paragraphs.
I get it.
This is why I send you these things beforehand. I'm like, yeah, it's probably going to be a jumbled version of this, but
it's gonna be around this.
it's going to be around this question.
Oh, okay. So, with everything, it has its sides, right? So, I definitely do say that I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in God. I just don't believe in the interpretation of God's word.
Like the scripture, like the biblical word.
Like honestly, no, even scripture I do, but I understand that we are all humans and we all are going to interpret that book differently, right? Some people are going to see XYZ things about it and that's what they're going to highlight and focus. Some people are going to see this other version and some people are going to see this portion, and everybody kind of, the beauty of it, everybody gets to interpret what they read. But at the same time, unfortunately, I've seen how some people have taken their interpretation and kind of put that demand on that interpreting definition. Like, this is what they interpret out of it, so this is what we should believe, and this is how we should act, and this is how it's going to be because that's what the word of God says, right? And it kind of can even be broken down between the Old Testament and the New Testament, because it's a huge difference when you read both of those.
Right.
Like everything, it has its history, it has its process, it has its learning lessons, right? But with that said, I am very spiritual. I do believe in God. So I think that has been always carried within me. My parents, I grew up in church. That's what my culture and tradition kind of stated for me since the very young age. Like I was mentioning to you, Mike, I couldn't even wear pants when I was in Guatemala. It all had to be dresses, very proper. And when I got here, sorry.
No, I just was thinking just culturally how religion can you never think about and everyone here doesn't wear pants because religion.
And it's, it's those little things, like they weren't saying you couldn't wear them outside of church. It's just when you went to church, this is how you presented yourself.
I see.
It was that I've always was taught, if you can dress up for XYZ event, you can dress up for church. It's an event as well. So, that very much ideal and tradition and kind of upbringing. Always had it. And I've never really doubted the word of God or the love of God. I just doubted the people interpreting it.
Sure.
I saw the people acting and reacting to XYZ things. So I had a rough time in religion trying to figure out what that meant for me when I was having those experiences. But I think throughout it all, it was that saying of, what would Jesus do? That kept coming back into mind. And I had a really good conversation with one of my mentors, and we talked about, what about if Jesus was here in our modern days today? Would he really be at the churches, or would he be out in the communities doing
murals and alleyways?
Yeah.
They'd be out there gathering the youths,
doing pocket parks, doing all these different things. So
you're basically Jesus.
No.
To me,
not at all.
No.
Not at all.
I'll worship you.
But it was. I think that conversation really hit with me, because there was a point in my life that I was like, oh, I'm not going to church. I don't truly believe in it. I doubt this. I doubt that. But then when I had that conversation and I started seeing you know what? You're right. My acts of services are the way that I portray my religion, the way that I portray my upbringing, my values, what I believe is important. That's where it's all kind of rooted from. My parents were missionary workers, and to an extent, I feel like I do missionary work in such a different way.
Yeah.
I've never put religion down somebody's throat because I've seen how much more people are pushed away from it. It just, if it naturally comes, it naturally comes. I have friends who do not believe in religion at all. And guess what? They're one of my closest friends because they respect my belief. I respect their belief. Sometimes I'd be like, oh my God, pray to God. And I'm like, oh, pray to the universe.
Sure.
Things like that. It's just at the very end, the other thing that my parents always told me was that if I sought for God, that was the main thing. No matter what religion, what, denomination I was, as long as I was following God. So with those values really installed in me, I think when I feel weakened, roughed, or, out of shape, out of line, everything that can come through all this work and people working as well. People services are really hard sometimes. All the energy that you're taking in. I really do just pray. I'm like, really pray for Lynn, y'all. Pray for Lynn.
Pray for Lynn.
Pray for Lynn. But I really do just pray and kind of have that moment of like, all right, things are rough. Kind of go through that whole meditation process of things have been worse and I've been able to survive and God doesn't give you what you can handle type thing and trying to see that bigger picture. It's taken a lot. I have a lot of good friends that are social workers that also help ground me. Shout out to Oscar and Megan.
All right. Yeah. Oscar and Megan.
Because they're the ones that, and I want to say my best friend, Oscar, he's the one who's truly has seen me go through rough things at times through most of my life and kind of called down and like, hey, it's okay if you're going to be in this mood, but I can't allow you only being in this mood for a day. Then I need you to get back up. And honestly, those words do help because he wasn't invalidating me. He was telling me I know you're going to feel like this, but I can't have you stuck.
And that's basically being God to you, right? That's just how it feels. Sometimes it's when you have that connection to a divine kind of experience, something that understands what you're going through.
Yeah.
And giving yourself that grace and empathy that, hey, it's okay. It's going to be okay. And that's how we can be God to each other. Yeah.
Yes. You know how it says that God uses us as tools? Me and my best friends talk about that all the time too. It's we're, if God is everywhere and almighty and in everything, then who's to say he's not talking to us right now? Right. Or different things like that. So I think my friends and family are a huge, safe spot for me. I really do harbor in them when things are rough. And then when I really, really, really need it, I do get into that quiet space. I listen to a lot of For King and Country.
That's crazy you say that.
I love them. They're good, yo. Guys, they're really good. Check them out.
Shout out to them.
They have concerts.
My friend Andrew Sexton, he's been on the show. He's a graphic design artist. He's doing work for them.
Really?
For King and Country. He's literally producing. I can't remember what. He's doing some graphic design work for promotion around their stuff. So
they're good.
I that's so what a small. I don't know. That's just. Not a small
coincidence,
world, but
right?
just a coincidence. Wow, it must be God.
Yeah. But yeah, things like that. I've definitely had my times in religion that has made me doubt, but I always remember these are the good things that I can take away from religion, right? The good portions of the concert, the good messages, the good vibes, the good feelings, the good values out of everything. So yeah, that's my grounding spot. That's my grounding spot.
Yeah, I don't recall offhand if this is an actual quote from somebody but I've just heard it stated somewhere that things like art and music and creativity are the closest things in this dimension, in this world, where we can scratch at the veil and potentially peek behind to see glimpses of God.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, has there ever been a moment where, whether you experienced an art piece or heard a song or music or just something that it was just almost overwhelming, how much you felt that connection to the divine? You felt a connection to the essence of it all. I know, not to like make it a heavy, big question,
go to church.
but yeah, this is, hey, amen, praise be, you know, like
Micah's church.
this is the Pray for Micah church. Oh, you don't think I've thought about it? You know,
yeah, I can imagine.
Oh yeah,
Youth groups, everything. You can build everything.
I'm gonna start a cult. Yeah, I'm just gonna like get people together and like just do psychedelics out in the woods. That's what I tell people. That'll be my church. Like,
you guys will have trips.
You will have trips. You will experience. You will scratch that veil, and you will rip it off the wall, and
it's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay. I'll hold your hand through it. You know, I'll play guitar.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so to your question.
Yeah, you can take a minute if you need to like think about. I was just like, has there like I just know, and it doesn't even have to be art. It could be like, I don't know, something in nature. Like I know for me, this last fall when I went to North Carolina on a trip.
Oh, it's beautiful. North Carolina.
Oh,
it's beautiful.
So gorgeous out there, and I was on like a solo kind of trip, just vacation, and there was just a day where I had like I get up and I can leave my campsite and kind of set my own schedule, but I decided to go ahead and go to one of the tall mountain peaks like within an hour or so from where I was camping, and that night it had gotten really cold. Like it had dropped down to like 30 degrees, 29. It wasn't like it was freezing temperatures, but it was mainly the cold wind going up these high mountains and it was like fall, so it was like October, so all the leaves on the way up were all these brilliant multicolored Skittles, is what I tell people. It was just Skittle colors.
Reminded me of the colors of the wind for Pocahontas.
Colors of the wind. And yes, it was all of that. But then what was crazy is as I got almost to the very top overlook where all the cars were going to park, as I'm like proceeding up, the trees started to change to like white. And first I thought they were like dead. I was like really confused. And then I realized they're frosted. It's not even snow. So like what had happened was overnight, all the cold wind coming up the mountain slopes from the valley had like frozen the dew on the leaves. So it was like all these multicolored leaves still attached to the tree, but now they're frozen. And it was just like something I'd never seen before. Like I've seen like snow on trees. I've seen like,
snow on trees. It's whatever.
Whatever, Yeah, as you described it, it's just cold wetness. Like, yeah. But like seeing trees that are like frozen in place kind of thing. Like it was almost like a time capsule. You know what I mean? It was like a trapped moment of like, but then it's thousands of trees. So you're at the top and I'm like, I've got videos of me panning over and it's like, again, it just looks aesthetically interesting and weird because it's not snow. It's just frost covered trees that are white now. And I cried. Like I literally teared up and like had this emotional moment of like, okay, this feels like God in this moment. Like, again, it doesn't have to be attached to a religion or a deity. Just in this moment, I feel connected to the oneness that holds all of this moment together because I'm experiencing beauty in its essence. Like I am the universe looking back at itself at these trees in this moment. So that's.
Oh man, when you put it like now I have 100 things.
Now you have to beat that story. No,
I know. Man, I've never seen frozen leaves like that.
Yeah. Well,
Oh man. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I don't know if I can top that story. But
it doesn't have to be. I was just curious if you've ever.
Can we edit your story out?
Yeah,
No,
yeah. We can delete mine.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No. That was a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Now
Thanks.
I kind of want to see the video.
I'll show it to you. Yeah. Oh, maybe maybe in the YouTube video, if you guys all watch it, I'll maybe
put a little snippet.
Maybe if you all are real good, if you listeners are real good, I'll put a video in there so you guys can see what I was talking about
at the very end, so they can hear the whole story. No. I'm kidding. All right, so okay, I think when I think about music, definitely Christian music. I think anything that I can think of as I was growing up, songs, hymns that just really hit. There's this song called Sumérgeme in Spanish.
Okay.
Sumérgeme. Ooh, I don't know if I'm going to say it right in English.
Are you going to sing it for us? That's what I want to know now.
No, I'm not a singer, y'all. You're welcome. I'm saving you guys from a lot of bad ear notes. Sumergeme means like when you think about when somebody baptizes you, they submerge you.
Yeah, yeah, they dunk you.
They dunk you
They
in, but that moment of being put under the water.
Yeah.
I don't know. In Spanish, it's sumerge, like sumerger a alguien. So the song is called Sumergeme, and it talks about that, that whole feeling of anoint me, make me whole again. And for some reason, I just remember that song from my childhood so much when my dad was building this bilingual church with another pastor. And anytime I hear it, it's just, I cry. I cry like a baby. There's another one. There's a couple of songs that I can think of that are very Christian based, religious based, that it just hits some other way. Now, as far as artwork, yes. And this was very interesting because I learned this just in my 20s a few years ago. I went through a really tough patch in my life, and I hadn't been doing a lot of artwork. So this particular year, my friend had gotten me a sketchbook. She got me a couple of them, actually. And I decided to, just get back into my artwork. And I was drawing all these different things. And one day I showed my friend, I shared it maybe months later, years later, when I was in a way better headspace. And she would always tell me like, oh, you should write. So you should think your thoughts out, process things out. And I'm like, no, I don't like writing. It's not my thing. It's like, I don't know. It's more work for me because my ESL brain is not, I don't know what language I want to write in. But when she saw my artwork, my sketchbook, she said, oh my gosh, she goes, this is like your diary. She goes, this is everything. I started explaining to her everything that I was feeling when I was creating. And I didn't realize I was telling my own story to an extent. Through images,
Oh,
right?
That's cool.
And when she said that, I think I had this moment of, this is, that wholesome moment, that divine moment of being like, my gift is actually talking to me and I'm actually growing through my gifts, through my skills. That was a really cool, I don't know how to say it. Like, it was just like a, like
sacred moment.
It's just, it was just a moment that it clicked that I'm like, and I really started seeing more of my sketchbooks after I draw in them and just understand what I'm feeling that I didn't know I was feeling. Now, as far as views, I love views. Like everything that you just said right now with the whole, climbing to this place and seeing all this beautiful sights that you otherwise wouldn't see if you didn't do this. I do that a lot with my friends. We've gone and, gone to different sites, different views, even oceans.
Well, you just went to
went
home to
Guatemala. Oh
Guatemala.
my God.
Yeah,
and we went to this view that was 1 kilometer up and 1 kilometer down. I did not prepare for that. We were struggling, y'all. We were struggling. But I was able to experience it. And those moments are just breathtaking of being like, how are people creating this? How do they imagine this? How is this artwork up here? How are dogs up here? I literally was thinking, I'm like, how are y'all up here? And
how did you get these animals up here?
For reals. And they were sleeping and everything. They were just, part of whatever was going on. So,
wow.
Yeah. I think those moments when I do those climbs or I see those specific views that do take a little bit of hard work to get to.
Yeah.
Those are definitely moments of like, this is good. This is a good space. Like you said, it's just taking all that in and truly seeing it for what it is. And also feeling this small.
Right.
It's just like, oh yeah, I'm probably an ant that I see, when I'm seeing down, I see this little ant and I'm like, whatever, that's probably me right there in the whole universe.
Isn't that amazing? Whether it's art or something like amazing, beautiful views, just how suddenly small and what is that? Why does that feeling always arise? Like, it's just an interesting, I've experienced that even just with art, like being at the Nelson Atkins Museum. Like, there's so much amazing art and sculptures and just realizing how old this stuff is, thousands of years old or hundreds, and you just realize like, oh, if I'm lucky, I'll be here for 80, like I'll walk in this planet for existence for 80 years of it. But this painting or this thing has been around for 600 or 1200 years or older. And you just suddenly realize how small and
Yeah.
significant / insignificant you are, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's a weird feeling, but it's a good feeling at the same time. It goes back to humbling. You know, it's just like, okay, my problems are not that big.
I saw this one of these TikTok videos where these like group of kids had some money and they decided to encase and enshrine a Cheetos bag. Like they basically spent all this money to make a earthquake proof and like flood proof like encasement that they buried. And it something theoretically could last like thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And they just suspended a bag of flaming Cheetos so that if future aliens or
You'd be like,
future
what the heck is
species,
this?
what is this? It's this language I don't understand. It must be really important because they put this bag in here and they suspended it to make sure it wouldn't like be affected. If I have the money and resources, Diosselyn, I would take one of your art pieces and I would do the same process. And I would just be like, you know what? Let's make this last for, 10,000, 50,000 years.
I would probably help you in that process.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Put a picture of us in there.
Yeah. Like, it's like, why not? Like, it's, it's like a time capsule thing, but it's like they actually made it like weatherproof and like
It's going to last.
it's going to last for some like
For hot
glass.
Cheetos, you guys.
For
Cheetos.
hot Cheetos, like god damn, like, and that's what I guess that's the spectacle of it, right? That's how they're these.
Next thing you know, the aliens are going to find a TikTok.
Yeah, they're gonna like, what is this TikTok? This thing that these people, these little
This
apes,
is what they were doing.
this is what these apes really liked. This thing, Yeah, it'll be the robots that they'll come and meet, the AI who take over and kill us all. So that's why I'm like, yeah, before that happens, let's enshrine some art in the ground,
Make it real.
Well, Diosselyn, for this year, it's 2023. Speaking of like art and projects, you got any like community events or projects you're working on? Anything you'd like to give
Put out
some
there.
honorable mentions to?
Yes, actually. So I'm doing a couple murals in partnership with DocuCourse and Be Great Together.
Okay.
So those are really cool things of just being able to be in new communities and figure out what that can entail. And honestly, having really good partners, because you guys, I've never experienced being treated really nice until now. I don't have to carry my paint or brushes, nothing like that.
Just
Not
getting
even
the full treatment.
Not even the ladder. So that's amazing. So honestly, really looking forward for those two. We have one in St. Teresa's Academy coming up.
Okay.
And the students already have their design. And then we have one in UMKC. And hopefully we get to develop that one out soon in the next couple weeks. Besides that, check out the Latino Arts Festival. That's going to happen on September 23rd of this year.
Okay.
It's going to be pretty big. We're going to have a lot of lowriders. We're going to have amazing artists, DJs, poets. We're going to be doing workshops for writers. So writers workshops, they're all going to be free. We're going to do pop-ups at the West Bottoms every last Friday, starting on April, all the way until October. And a couple art camps here and there. And overall, I think personally, my biggest goal is just to be able to continue to sustain what I'm doing and hopefully not pay it out of my own pocket.
And hopefully somebody else carries your paint cans for you.
Yes.
Yeah, you're like,
that's
you're living the
nice
bougie
treatment.
life. That's you're living the real good life at that point.
Yes. I was like, this can happen? I don't have to carry this in my car anymore. You guys, my car has paint everywhere.
Oh, I imagine. I bet your house too. I bet you even when you don't notice, there's probably little speckles here and there.
My clothes.
I did notice, with my outfits from those couple days, I was like, I thought I was being really careful, and I'm like, got little streaks of yellow here and there. Like,
you always find them somewhere, somehow.
well, it's just a little remembrance, little totem thing to kind of harken back to good times. So.
Yes. And so that's what I'll be doing. I'll be focusing on that, and then Urban Station and Urban Works is going to continue to partner up with these organizations and amazing sponsors that help us do all of this work, all of these projects, all of these events for the community.
Yeah. And where can folks find you online for both personal and if you want to throw out some links for Urban Works or social media?
So you honestly, guys, if you guys look up Urban Works LLC, you guys will find it on Instagram and on Facebook. There's no extra added wordage. It's just Urban Works LLC. And besides that, you can find me, Diosselyn Tot. I promise you guys, my name is very unique.
Yeah, it is.
So it will pop up. Very long name, but Diosselyn Tot will come up on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is where I try to post a lot of my projects. And if you want to see my current, just things that I'm doing up, everyday type thing, Facebook is where you'll find a lot of the Facebook events and a lot of the flyers and photos of all the projects I do.
Right. And for sure, also go to DocuCourse.org. Watch her whole documentary. We got into some of her story today, but in more of a thematic, film aesthetic. You get to really experience all the people and stories that she was just sharing about, all the folks who've kind of surrounded and supported her through her journey. So
yes,
cool.
Check out DocuCourse.
Well, everybody, you all know to check out Pray for Micah Pod on your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the socials. Send your prayers in, prayers for the people. Hopefully it's a new thing we'll start trying to do here on the show. We want to hear some funny, embarrassing stories that you have. And so send an email to prayformicahpod@gmail.com. Maybe you'll get featured on the show. So till next time.
Until next time, guys, pray for Micah.
And always be praying for Micah. Thanks for joining me for the Pray for Micah podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. And check out my YouTube channel and follow me on social media. Pray for Micah Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We'll see you next time.
You are now re-entering the normal world.